Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Hello everyone, Craig here with another great business to discuss in this episode of the Real Money, Real Business podcast. Today's guest is William, and he's selling his e-commerce and Amazon FBA business on the Empire Flippers marketplace. So welcome to the show, William. How are you doing today?
I'm all good, thanks Craig. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's great to have you on, and I'm looking forward to talking more about your business. But before we dive in, let's go over a brief summary of the business. It's an e-commerce and Amazon FBA business in the personal care niche, created in July 2020. The average monthly revenue for the business is $26,708, and it makes an average of $11,226 net profit each month. For everyone listening, you can visit empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing 55479 to learn more about the business, or you can unlock this listing to start your due diligence if you're interested in purchasing this asset. So now that I've given a general overview of the business, let's have a look at what's included in the sale. We have 2 domains and all site content and files for those domains, and including 24 Shopify SKUs, an Amazon Seller Central account with 1 SKU, social media accounts for Facebook, Instagram, supplier contracts and relationships, and an email list of 2,899 subscribers. And it's also important to note that inventory is not normally included in the list price, but further details can be provided to active buyers. Okay, William, now let's hear from you. Can you tell us a little about your background in building and running online businesses?
Sure. So I've been working in content production and digital for about 14 years, trained in broadcast journalism, ended up running a video production company for about 5 years before getting into e-commerce. I then spent about 8 years agency side, so helping brands drive performance online. That gave me a good schooling in performance marketing, and I guess what it takes to help a brand do well online. In 2015, I was actually in Greece about to get married. I was sat next to the pool having a beer, reading a book called The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. Big fan of Tim's. That inspired me to launch my first e-commerce business, and I've carried through with a lot of ideas from that book to today, really, albeit I'm still working on the 4 hours part. Essentially, if you haven't read that book, it's about leveraging automation as much as possible. It's about bringing in an income whilst you sleep, and it's about maximizing your time in the right areas. I launched my first e-commerce business in 2016, sold that 3 years later to an American investor. I now run a handful of e-commerce businesses that are all bootstrapped and have a centralized approach to product sourcing, customer service, marketing, and fulfillment.
Excellent. Wow, that's quite a story. And yeah, we've had entrepreneurs on here before who've been inspired by that book, so I'm sure there's many who can relate. You mentioned like the sort of product sourcing systems that you have in place. Are you okay to unveil what that is for us?
Yeah, I think ultimately for me, it's about understanding what's the framework that you're operating in. And for each business, it's about how do you kind of learn and evolve with each one, and how do you make things more profitable and easier to run. So I can't go into too much detail in terms of like the specifics in terms of how we source products from. But in terms of just taking into account, obviously before you even launch a product, that it's commercially viable, you take into account all of the different costs across the supply chain, and you're negotiating as hard as possible to get those products in the right price that ultimately allows you to pay not just for the cost of the product, but for the cost of the advertising, and looking at ways that you consolidate costs. We import a lot of products, and that can be an expensive process, especially with COVID and all of the things that are happening at the moment. So really focusing in on how do we reduce those costs.
Absolutely, yeah. It sounds like a solid process, and it's reflected in your profit margins, which are quite strong. So it seems to be working out for you. So for this business that we have for sale today, how did you come up with the idea to start this one?
So I know quite a bit about this particular niche. I spotted a product that had a lot of demand, and to be fair, quite a bit of competition, but a lack of quality brands in the space. I felt like I could get ultimately the competitive edge in the market by using my skills in branding and performance marketing. And as a target customer myself, it was something that I could relate to and ensure that we were producing the best products for the target market.
Excellent. And how is it that this business model primarily makes money?
So the business primarily makes money through D2C e-commerce sales. We've recently launched a subscription product, and we have been doing a bit more B2B sales recently. But I would say it's kind of 95% direct to consumer.
Absolutely, yeah. And I see that you branched out onto Amazon FBA as well. Did you do that from the offset, or did you introduce that later on?
It was important for me, I guess, for the business to try and drive as much traffic as possible through our own website and really own that customer journey. I think in terms of looking at opportunities to scale, you can't ignore Amazon. It comes with its own challenges and considerations, but that's been a great success. It's kind of driving an extra 20%, and it's very much in its infancy. So I think with the right approach, Amazon's an apps, it's a great channel, and that'll only scale as we start to kind of invest more time on it. It was encouraging for me to see that we could drive a lot of success early doors directly through our own website before needing to go onto Amazon.
Absolutely, yeah, and we'll dig into those growth opportunities in just a moment. But first, I'm curious as to why you're selling the business right now.
So yeah, it's an interesting one. I'm taking a bit of a sideways move for a while. So I've got a property venture, which I'm looking to launch in the UK and Spain. So I'm cashing in a few different assets, and I'm sure I'll be back. I've got one of those brains that's always thinking about ideas, particularly around e-commerce. But for now, this is something that I want to do with my family, 2 young kids, and keen to reduce some of the time that's invested in these online ventures and put it into a different asset.
Yeah, there's a bit of a property boom going on in the UK, so good if you could take advantage of that. Is there anything you've learned from this business that you will apply to future sites or businesses?
Absolutely, yeah. With every business I've run, I think like anybody, you take learnings and evolve. And what I've learned from this business, that operating ultimately one core SKU is a lot easier than having to manage multiple products. So you'll see in the listing that it refers to quite a few more SKUs, but ultimately it's 1 or 2 core SKUs and the rest are kind of accessories for those products. And that's been a bit of a game changer in terms of how much easier it is to run an e-commerce business with fewer products. And the other thing I've learned, which fundamentally has changed the way that I operate, is a new way of accounting that ensures a profit-first approach, which has been a bit of a game changer. So one of the challenges that you can experience when bootstrapping an e-commerce business is just ensuring that you always have the right cash flow and you're buying the right amount of stock at the right times. And yeah, moving to this new approach has really helped us understand exactly how much we have for all of the considerations, whether that's buying inventory or paying taxes. And it always ensures that you're making the right level of profit from the beginning.
So yeah, profitability is one of those key factors in business that can't be overlooked, and it certainly helps with the health of the business. Is there anything you tried that didn't work out for you?
So recently we launched into the US market, specifically through Google Ads, and have so far found it really hard to get cut through and to get its cost in. I think international remains both a huge opportunity and probably my biggest challenge with all of the businesses that I've run. I haven't cracked it yet. I think if we could achieve the same sort of success that we're seeing within the UK market in 1 or 2 additional markets, and you've got a very exciting business.
Absolutely, yeah. US is certainly a place of opportunity. So you talked about the traffic earlier. Where does the majority of the traffic come from?
In terms of launching the business, we started with paid search. It's an area I know really well from kind of my background in performance marketing. What I like about paid search is it's really measurable. You can hit the ground running from day one, and providing you can deliver it at the right ROAS, it's a scalable model. However, recently we also launched paid social. So a couple of months ago, we launched Facebook and Instagram. That's now driving about 40% of traffic and showing some good success. And as you mentioned earlier, we're also selling through Amazon as well. So that's driving some incremental revenue through FBA.
Yeah, I see you've got a large Instagram following as well. How was it that you sort of built up that social profiles?
Yeah, so when we set out with the brand initially, we wanted to kind of recruit some ambassadors that reflected the brand, and they've helped us produce content and also share their networks. We also have some cool tech which allows us to find people who are in our target audience and ultimately allows us to engage with their content. And Our main advantage that we see from channels like Instagram is getting feedback from customers and allowing us to evolve and iterate the product. So that's been really successful.
Yeah, so you mentioned in terms of marketing for the business, you do the paid advertising, social media as well. So those are the main types of marketing you do for the business then?
Correct, yeah. So it's predominantly a paid approach at the moment. And I think there are further opportunities longer term to invest in other channels and other marketing. But for now, that's kind of the core area where my skill set lies and has driven a lot of the success so far.
And you mentioned that you use tech to help you out. What sort of softwares and tools do you use to help you run this business?
In terms of tools, I guess think about a few different areas. So as I mentioned before, kind of inspired by the 4-hour work week, trying to automate as many processes as possible. I think in the description, you can see that I spend approximately about 7 hours on the business a week, which is fairly light touch, aiming for 4 hours, but about 7 hours at the moment. Use a number of tools to kind of get me to that place. So I guess one of the first ones, it's not really a tool, but it's quite a seismic change in terms of how we ran the business. So one of the previous websites we were managing all of the fulfillment ourselves. So hiring our own warehouse, paying staff to pick and pack. And we, after selling that business, used to a third-party logistics warehouse. So nice family-run business who give us a lot of support and they manage everything. So as soon as the order comes in, they pick, pack and fulfill all of the orders. If the stock's coming into the warehouse, they obviously sort it all out, add it to the systems. So that's been a game changer in terms of not having to manage all of that, which is a pretty time-consuming process. From an advertising perspective, we're in quite an exciting time at the moment. The machine learning and some of the AI that's coming out of platforms like Google and Facebook is very advanced. And where possible, we're looking to leverage machine learning to drive sales, specific target ROAS, and seeing particular success through Google Ads doing that. From a customer service perspective, centralize all of the customer service use a tool called Help Scout. And that just allows us to create tickets and for our VA to be able to manage communications, variety of using templates, but then also kind of personal communication where required. So it just keeps everything in one place. And then from a retention perspective, it's probably been mentioned before on this show, but Klaviyo is a great tool for creating automated flows, so engaging customers after they've purchased with relevant information at the right times. And yeah, that's a tool I'd recommend to a lot of people.
So, yeah, that's really clear. It sounds like you built up solid systems to help keep the business minimum close to that 4 hours as possible. And so we touched upon a couple of these earlier, but what do you think are the major opportunities for growth with this business?
There's a few things. I think international, as I mentioned earlier, I think that represents a big opportunity if someone's got that experience, or perhaps they're purchasing the business and they're already positioned in a different market, which they understand. So I think the immediate opportunity from an international perspective is looking at English-speaking countries like the US, Australia. And retail could be a good option. As we've discussed, there's great margin on the products. So far, we're selling D2C through the website. There's potential there to sell in a lot of retail outlet across the world. Clearly, it's a very popular product and lots of great reviews. So there's no reason why it couldn't sell well through a retail environment. And then expanding the product range. So I guess purposely kept things simple so far, just to aim for that 4 hours a week management. But there's so many different products you could add onto this range that's relevant to the kind of personal care sector in our particular niche. So that remains a big opportunity for someone that's interested.
Yeah, and about managing the business, can you describe the amount and type of work you do in this business for maintenance?
Sure. So obviously a considerable amount of time is invested in the initial months. So creating the brand, sourcing the product, setting up the website, advertising, etc. However, as I mentioned, I'm now only spending approximately 7 hours a week on the business. I think it's important to remember that if you keep, or whoever buys this business keeps the current business model, then most things are automated from advertising through to fulfillment. Advertising campaigns, for instance, as I mentioned earlier, are set to deliver a specific ROAS. An order comes in and it's picked, packed and fulfilled by a third-party fulfillment company. And then we use a VA to do the customer service via our customer service platform. Any returns are managed via a central system that manages all the postage, etc. So really my role is keeping an eye on all of that and answering any questions that can't be covered by any of those people that are fulfilling those parts of the business. And for me, it's about reading the reviews, looking at ways we can iterate and improve on the product, And yeah, ultimately make sure that we keep evolving, making sure that the advertising is delivering at the right return, and making sure that fundamentally profit is the number one kind of metric that we're reporting on with the business.
And what skills or requirements do you think there are for someone who's not familiar with this niche or business model?
So I'd say an awareness of the niche isn't particularly important in this case. I think it can be learned quickly. I'd say obviously understanding e-commerce will be a big benefit. And if you bring in other skills to the table that can help you drive further growth, then that's a plus. Clearly, there's lots of different market activities that we're not doing at the moment that could deliver strong return on investment. So if people have got those skills and they're bringing those to the table, then that will only be a good thing. But fundamentally, this is a plug and play D2C business that someone could run with very little skills or experience. It's just how much they want to evolve and take it to the next level. And that's where the skills and experience will come into their own.
Yeah, it sounds like you see you've got those systems in place to help run the business, and then you've got this solid brand. You've got to certainly establish yourself within the niche, so that that's opportunity for growth. So it sounds very good. But on the flip side of things, what do you think are the biggest risks with this business that a buyer should be aware of?
Good question. So I think the biggest risk, like any business, is not staying ahead of the competition and not evolving and not listening to your customers. You know, we got some feedback early on a certain part of the product could be improved, and we put time and energy into improving that, and we're seeing the benefits of that. So I think it's just making sure that you're always one step ahead of the competition. You're always looking to improve the product, and you're delivering a great customer service. And if you don't do those things, then eventually things will stagnate and the business could decline. But it's a lean business. It's highly profitable. It's scaling month on month. So I think the risk is low. And yeah, it represents a good opportunity to the right buyer who's keen to take it to the next level.
Absolutely, yeah. And about that buyer, putting yourself in their shoes, why do you think this is a business worth buying?
Ultimately, it's a plug and play D2C business. It's super profitable. There's plenty of upside, as I mentioned, with all of the opportunities in terms of market, additional channels. I'm also here to support the transition. I'm super flexible. I'm keen to help the buyer continue the success of the brand. So I'm emotionally invested in it. I'm willing to give the time and energy to support someone to take this over. And yeah, I think the figures show that clearly it's a successful business, that month on month it's improving, and we're just about to approach Q4, which is going to take things up a notch. So it's only going to improve from here.
Absolutely, yeah, all solid points. Regarding the sale of this business then, would you commit to a non-compete?
Of course, yeah.
And how much support are you willing to offer buyers? Are you going for the standard 30 days of email and Skype support?
I'm pretty flexible. I think what's in the interest of the buyer, I'm happy to provide about 40 days of support. I'd recommend, if they're receptive to it, maybe a 30-minute weekly video call if required and if desired. And yeah, ultimately I'm here to support the transition and help whoever takes it over continue the success.
Excellent. And are you open to negotiating something like an earnout?
I'd say my preference would be prioritizing upfront offers, but I'm open to offers. At the end of the day, I've got specific timelines in terms of the property venture that I'm working on. So my preference is for an upfront deal, however, receptive to the offers on the table.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to share that I might have missed?
I don't think so. Yeah, very thorough questions. So hopefully I've answered those all right. And yeah, excited to see what comes as part of the process, and look forward to discussing with potential buyers and answering questions in more detail as they come up.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for your time, William. It's been great talking to you.
Super. Thanks, Craig. Thanks for your time.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. To learn more and see if this listing has already been sold, head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing 55479. If you're watching this on YouTube, click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. Once you've unlocked this listing, you'll be given everything you need to know about this business. So until next time, enjoy your digital journey.